Call the meeting to order. If we please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item 3 is an invitation for a citizen to schedule time on the commission agenda for an item not listed. It's a 5-minute time limit per person. Anyone wanting to speak during this agenda item must sign in prior to the start of the meeting. Any requested action items must be scheduled for a future meeting. I don't see anybody here for an invitation. We'll move on to item 4, which is the approval of the agenda. Is there any changes to the agenda? No changes? Any changes from anybody else? Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any other comments or questions on the agenda? Any comments or questions? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Item 5 is our consent agenda items. We have approval of the minutes with documents, approval of the travel request with documents, approval of personnel action notices with documents, approval of the cellular authorizations, and approval of the human services report with documents. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any comments or questions on the items? Any questions on any of the items? Hearing none, we'll call the roll.
Pierce.
Aye.
Boersma.
Aye.
Krogman.
Aye.
Jensen.
Aye.
Bartley.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 6 is routine business. We have some claims and the December cell phones PDF. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions on the claims or the cell phones? Any comments? Hearing none, we'll call the roll.
Boersma.
Aye.
Krogman.
Aye.
Jensen.
Aye.
Pierce.
Aye.
Bartley.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We'll move on to our item B, which is a highway department report with documents. And Brian, we'll let you go first.
Well, as you guys are all well aware, I'm sure, of the bridges finally being opened on 77. There was a few items that were taking place last week just to kind of finish up. The DOT was doing their as-built construction inspection, and then erosion control and seeding was taking place last Monday. Aside from that, it's been open. I know I've gotten a few complaints, specifically from some truck traffic about the situation with the guardrail on the south side of the road, or south side of the project. They're saying they can't make the corner, but I had to remind them too that next year's work, there is some additional grading and whatnot that'll take place on the south side of the project, and gonna work with the DOT on that next year. But with the weather constraints, we didn't feel comfortable taking on that so we could get the road open for the winter. But like I said to them, there'll be some additional grading and asphalt work on that south side next year. So if you guys do hear some complaints, that is what that's about. The guardrail is a little tight currently. But like I said, there's some additional grading that has to take place on that intersection. So just so you guys are aware of that. Between snowstorms, we've been doing some tree removal within our right-of-way, and as I mentioned before, we are coming back behind and picking up those trees that we've cut down and taking them to the landfill. They take them for free, so that's where we're taking them. We've also begun work on checklists from our bridge inspections over the summer. Most of the work consists of replacing riprap or addressing other minor concern or repairs. But I received the inspection reports on the 16th, and I wanted to share first and foremost with the closure on 77, one of the roads that I'd like to address that seen some major pressure, obviously, from the roads or the bridges being closed on 77 is on County Road 19. Stacy, is that, can we pull that map up? And the red dot there, there's 3 bridges on that stretch, and the middle bridge sustained some, obviously some heavy pressure, and the reason that that one does need to change, currently it's posted at 13 tons for a single unit and 22 tons for a combination, and the recommended posting is going to change from 8 tons single unit and 13 tons combination, and that's due to the condition of the substructure, specifically splits in the timber bent piling under the bent cap. And what we had happen there, I was actually underneath the bridge and looked at it, is we're starting to see a inverted crown. You know, we want to see on those types of bridges a crown that goes like this. Now we're starting to see, and that's due to the condition of that bent cap. We're working with the engineer on trying to figure out a remedy that will sustain the life of that bridge. Currently, right now, we have a preliminary engineering grant that we've been awarded for on that specific structure. But, you know, we'd be looking at 2, if not 3 years before we could see a grant that we would probably intend for, on applying for on this one. That's kind of the major one on our system that I wanted to make you guys aware of.
Where's that from, the one we had the rehabilitation grant for?
It's just to the north.
North of it?
Yep.
Okay.
And Colin with Banner is going to be in most likely the next meeting to discuss and reveal his reports to you guys with any other questions you guys would have on our bridges. We weren't able to get him in on time to get all that information. So at the next meeting, I'll have him here to discuss in further, but that was the major change I wanted to talk with you guys on our bridge inspections. But I also attached the report in there with the recommended postings in our posting summary sheet. But overall, we only had three changes. Two were obviously major, but one is on one of our major arterial roads, so the other 2 were on township roads. That's all I have.
All right, any questions for Brian? That bridge going out to the country club versus the one on Sinai, those 2 bridges should be started next summer.
Well, we're looking, you know, that Sinai structure, I've been communicating with the DOT, and we're looking at a spring letting for that, as it is sitting in right now is in a preliminary or a final design phase, so final red line phase, and we'll be looking at getting that. The DOT would be letting that structure.
Is that a 1-year project, 2 or 3?
The Sinai structure, that 6-ton structure, would be we'd intend on you know, starting construction next, you know, summer on that one.
Okay. Basically, that would be finished before we tackled the country club road bridge.
Correct.
Okay. We wouldn't want both out at the same time, load limits or otherwise, but
Do we know what the intended route to go around that Sinai Bridge is and what roads there? Is there anything on those?
Well, now
Routes
you
that-
bring that up, we've been working with Madera Township already. I don't know if anybody's been down there, but there's a road just to the north of that structure, the one that's actually getting you know, lowering the posting. That road was underwater, and they've repaired some pipe, and we're going to start working with them for the local traffic currently, but we're looking at that County Road 17 down to County Road 20 is kind of the main detour for the main traffic, which there is no structures on County Road 17. The only structure that'd be on the south side of Lake Campbell, that'd be in Moody County, but we'd be working with them on that. But the County Road 16, there's also a structure that we're looking at because we foresee a lot of the major local traffic using that road also.
Going north
But-
rather than south?
Yeah. So there is a structure that we do need to give attention to on that stretch for heavy traffic, but it's on our minor list, but it is something that we'd like to address before that does happen.
And 16, is that gravel?
Yes. So like I said, we have been working with Maderi on trying to get some, alleviation for the farm traffic.
Any other questions, Commissioner Pierce?
If the Sinai Bridge is let next spring, and you said construction would start next year, how long is it going to take to finish that bridge?
I would foresee 6 to 8 months. I mean, that's my forecast. I would foresee that we'd have a November 1st deadline.
So you think it will be done in 2021?
I believe so.
And is there any way to make the letting of the bid be earlier?
Right now, with the DOT's hands on controlling the letting and with the final design, that's kind of in their court. I can't have any control over that like we did on the Bruce structure.
That bridge has been posted for a long time.
I am very frustrated with that. I had a conversation with our sheriff yesterday. I've followed trucks over that bridge that I know are not 6 ton, and I am very concerned with, and it hasn't been just once. I've followed several trucks over that. We do not ourselves as a county highway department feel comfortable driving our own equipment over it. But me following semi-tractor trailers over that bridge, it just scares me. What about the time that a loaded semi and somebody gets killed? That's my concern. So Marty has reached out to the carrier enforcement to see if we can't get some help on that before we do have a catastrophe.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, Brian.
Thanks.
Next, we'll have Sheriff Marty for your report.
I have an item under regular business. I'll wait to then. The only thing I wanted on my report today is GPS. That's one. Actually, I have 11 out on GPS right now. 11. I'll have a little discussion on regular business, so I'll wait.
Okay, thank you. Lori? Finance Office?
Okay, in the finance office, customers received their delinquent tax notices a week and a half ago. We did have one customer that we had to make notation of that got a little bit irate about getting a delinquent tax notice. Otherwise, it goes pretty smoothly. So they have been really busy downstairs with those people. We're working on getting ready for the publication in the paper and the delinquent tax certificates. And I've been busy familiarizing myself with the jail bond, closing, all of that paperwork that I can find. And I've been looking over the department budgets and getting familiar with the expense lines and just how that all flows. Let's see, Jennifer and I have been busy getting information for the end of the year. That's always really busy, especially on the auditor side, so we want to get our ducks in line before we find out we missed something. So yeah, that's business as usual. The office has been very busy, but I can't thank the girls enough. They all know their jobs so well, and they just come, they do them. Everything goes so smooth, and so yeah, it's very enjoyable.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Lori? Commissioner Pierce?
and I know this is down the road, but I just couldn't remember, and somebody asked me, when do the notices go out next year, in the spring? When do we
It's
send-
in early January.
In early January?
Yep,
Thank you.
yep.
Any other questions? Thank you, Lori. Mr. Hill.
Good morning.
Good morning.
On the 17th, Basin Electric Power Co-op has the Basin Electric Big Power Station. They had a virtual first responder class during the day or training session. The sheriff, my office, and the Brookings Fire Department attended that. Then they had another one later that day with all the local fire departments to call in on it. Richard's class to SDSU went well. It was an agricultural type class on how we permit livestock in the joint jurisdiction area, so that went well. Our local emergency planning committee meeting was conducted via Zoom. The big thing out of that was we did apply for the 2021 grant application. We'll see if we get it. The 20th, there was a NACO Rural Action Caucus meeting. And then the 23rd, the following Monday, ad hoc drainage meeting. The focus of this particular ad hoc drainage meeting was the same area that the county commission as a drainage board discussed in 2015, basically from the city limits to the Big Sioux River. And we're going to invite the city of Brookings in our next meeting, I believe, is January the 11th. And we're going to continue that conversation. We're getting close. Something tells me I will have to come in February and ask for an extension, but I want to get that ad hoc committee's feedback before I actually do that. I went on the radio on November 24th, talked about fall weather, living here in the wintertime, and driving were the main subjects. The 25th, Wednesday before Thanksgiving, we had a generator power test at the BCOAC. I'll let Mr. Huber talk about that. And yesterday I got an email. I've lost another planning commissioner. Planning Commissioner Terrell Spence has resigned effective immediately. And he's from District 3 up in Argo, Oak Lake, Lake Hendricks, Afton, Sherman, and the northern part of Richland Townships. So after this meeting, we'll get with the Commission Department Director and get that advertised. And then tonight, we do have a planning meeting scheduled. We have a long-term planning commissioner who is basically retiring after 23 years. That's Darrell Nelson. He's out of District 4, which is Alton, Aurora, Trenton, Parnell, Elkton, and the southern part of Richland Townships. And I'm going to break loose at 9:30, go back on the radio since they changed the radio times on us. And then at 10:30, there's a drone demonstration over at Hy-Vee parking lot. It looks like the Police Foundation is trying to do a fundraiser for some sort of drone. So Lincoln County's bringing up their drone and going to fly it in the Hy-Vee parking lot. They got permission from the airport to go ahead and fly over at the Hy-Vee parking lot. Any questions?
Any questions from Mr. Hill? Commissioner Pierce.
You know, the county in your office does a lot of training on that POD, the point of distribution for
Yes, ma'am.
immunizations. And as I'm listening to the COVID distribution of the vaccine, it doesn't appear that PODs are going to be utilized anywhere in the nation. Could you just give us a little bit of the rationale, and is that something that we should be continuing to do if that's not going to be used? What's the going on with that?
Well, I from what I can tell, and I'm not in the medical side of the house, obviously I'm an emergency manager side of the house, the initial vaccine is going to be given to the healthcare workers in that category. And people that staff the pod, or that's them. So I think what the state is planning is if the hospital gets their doses, they'll go ahead and give them in-house. And if they need help, they'll call another clinic in or something like that. I think when you see the points of dispensing group being called up is going to be when you get to that phase 3, where they start to, if they do it, and they may have individuals go to a point, like a clinic for a shot, or if they want to have mass immunization like we did with the H5N1 years ago, There, we actually did it at, one of the clinics was at the hospital, and the other one was at the Avera Clinic, and we set up, then we used the full pod. So it really just, I think in the initial stage, you're correct. We will not, I don't see any signs that they're gonna pull the pod, pull the plug, activate the pod. But I do envision later on that we will be fully used.
Do you know, does each county in the state of South Dakota, is the pod something that every county has?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
There's only about 7 pods. Don't quote me on that, but I believe there's about 7 pods throughout the state of South Dakota. And such as the pod that I'm in charge of, we've got Brookings County completely, then we got the eastern half of Kingsbury County, and then we take the northern part of Moody County. So, and then we also expect some catchment from Lincoln County, Minnesota. About 50,000 people is what they estimate we'll be able to inoculate if needed.
Thank you.
And that brings up a good point. If they do call a pod, and there's a full pod, and there may be a time when I call the chair, the emergency management liaison, and tell them I'm closing the zoning office temporarily. We'll put a sign on the door where we'll do the pod, and once the pod's done, then we'll come back and do. That's if I need my complete staff over there.
Administering that, do you ID people then? Do they have to give some type of identification that they're from within the area, or if anybody shows up, you can give them
Probably
the vaccine?
more than likely anybody that shows up.
Okay.
But where my staff would be used with the identification is the actual pod workers. We've got to make an ID for each one that walks in and works in the pod. They get their own little,
Right.
so, 'cause
But I was thinking the people that were receiving the vaccine, how are they?
that'll be up to the state of South Dakota. We basically have no, they come and raise their arm, we give them we shoot them in the arm, as far as I know, but Department of Health will send out the guidelines on exactly who's eligible. Not everyone will be eligible. I think that's the big reason why they're not activating the pods in the beginning stage. They don't want someone that's not medical like me sitting there saying, well, you don't work in a hospital, why are you in line? Whereas the hospital can control who they want to get the vaccination. And then by the time my group gets involved, then basically if they walk in the door, we're gonna take care of them.
I'm not going to turn them away.
Not as far as I've never seen any plans where we turn anybody away. We have had issues such as when we had the H5N1, where the lines were extremely long and we were starting to run out of doses. And that's when we had to call law enforcement. And very may well have to do the same thing again, depending upon how many doses we get and how it's run. But that's why the pods are here. It's not just all medical. People think where it's a pod, it has to be medical. It's not. They pull people like my group in and stuff, and then we work together as a team. It becomes a true team effort. I don't give the shots. All I do is more administrative stuff and help set tables up and give ID badges and stuff like that, personnel stuff.
Basically amounts to if the pod is activated, there's a lot of work to do because
Yes.
a lot of the lower level of the pod from you down is a dispensing part of it, and the pod relies heavily on SDSU nursing students, which may or may not be available if it's not in session to dispense those medications. So give
No,
those shots, and
You can
it's a
think of
fluid
it-
situation.
You can think of it like the military. You got the people out front shooting the actual guns. But look how many people in the background you've got giving them bullets and food and everything else. So you're absolutely correct. The pyramid's a
The
good.
pod is pretty extensively staffed, and at the same time, I'm going to guess that they'll require the pod people have gone through the vaccination first, if they could possibly do that. And again, the vaccination is a 2-shot process at this point, with, I don't know how many days it has been in between. But,
21 days if you get one, and 28 days if you get the second, and then that's
Yeah.
only 2 right now, even being looked at.
All right, so you're looking at a month to effectively give somebody the vaccination and have it effective before you can allow them to work in the pod. So it's
And
It's
then
not
the
gonna be a fast
Department of Health,
process.
the Department of Health has to have the procedures. Once you get the first shot, you've got to be tracked for however many days it is for the second one to make sure you get the second shot. Otherwise, you've just wasted everybody's time and money.
there's a lot of logistics in making sure everybody shows up for that second shot, and that you have
So-
enough vaccine for it too.
I will say we're ready, and we're just waiting for our orders to move. So, and I'll keep the commission informed on every step that we take.
Should we be talking about any coverage for the planning and zoning office if that happened? And I realize that's an extreme contingency because I'll be surprised, but do
Well,
we need to have plans in place?
What would happen is they would typically, right now, if we're all at lunch or something and someone stops by, they typically leave a note at the commission director's office. And then as soon as we get in, we give them a call and take care of them. And I would imagine that would still work. We're not talking about the office being closed for a long period of time. Maybe a day at the most.
Be short term.
For us to need everyone, I mean, if it's longer than a day, we'll take other actions, obviously, but.
All right, any other questions for Bob? If not, thank you for the update.
You're welcome, thank you.
Mike?
Can I
What?
interrupt for
You
just
may.
a second? I visited with Sean. We had a piece of equipment in the back fail, so we're not broadcasting to the TV. YouTube, we still are, but it failed. We are not on TV, and we're not going to be able to play this meeting back on TV because of that equipment failure. So I just wanted to make everyone aware of that. But we're still recording. We're still on YouTube, so.
So we'll have a YouTube.
Oh, we're still broadcasting. We're just not recording it, so we won't have the playbacks. So.
All righty. Somebody at home could record it for us. All right. Mike, I thought I saw you somewhere. There you are. For your report.
There's just two things I wanted to bring your attention. We are still working on doing the COVID relief package. It has to be turned in by the 18th of this month. So if anyone is having problems with paying rent or utilities, I encourage them to get a hold of us immediately. We do the process in my office. We are in our office, and then we send it over to get it approved by the secondary group. And so this is a big pile of money that has to be used by the 18th of this month. So if anyone knows anyone having problems with paying rent or utilities because of COVID, encourage them to get a hold of us immediately. And the second thing is that partly because of COVID, we are running lower on DAV van drivers. And so anyone in the community that would be interested in doing that, please contact the office.
Would you give them a phone number?
Oh, yeah, 605-696-8260. That's 696-8260. Thank you.
Any questions for Mike? Seeing none, thank you very much. We've got 2 minutes, Dustin. Can your report be done in 2? All right, we'll take you.
Start with the attendance since the last meeting, November 17th. We had 67 through the archery range. The gun range was 83. Since the last meeting, we have scheduled 24 classes for next year, 2021. That's 12 enhanced, 4 basic pistol. Now we're doing a renewal class for the enhanced. Their 5 years is up on their enhanced concealed carry permit, so we have to do a renewal for them. And then we're going to try a basic rifle class. Shooting sports, Sonia got everything scheduled for January through April, so now we're kind of filling in the empty spots with other events, stuff like that. Working on leagues, I'm actually meeting with the guys that do the leagues today. We still have some logistical things to work out, but hopefully we'll do an 8-week league. Basic archery class, I wanted to let you guys know, due to COVID, he is not allowed to instruct any classes inside, so we had to postpone that, hoping to reschedule early in the year. My goal is to get JOAD, 4-H, all the leagues and the classes scheduled by the end of the year, and then we'll kind of know what we're working with. And then, like I said, when we got empty slots, we'll fill in with other events and stuff like that. Maintenance, like Bob said, last Wednesday, Sean came over. We shut all our network down. We had everything ready to roll. Worked with AMP. It went very smoothly. We were back online at 5 o'clock, and we tested our own generator, and it worked, powered the lights on. Like we said before, it is underpowered, so if we're ever going to have to power the whole building, we need something different. And then staffing, with the amount of events and leagues and classes that we're scheduling, I may need to look at hiring a few more part-time people. But I'll assess that towards the end of the year. Any questions for me at all?
I was just gonna make a comment, the archery class was gonna be, GF&P was actually gonna be working with Dustin
Yep.
on that class, and it come down through the state that he wasn't able to, so.
Yep, Jason Nelson, he's from the outdoor campus down in Sioux Falls.
Any other questions? Thank you very much for your report.
Thank you.
We have a scheduled item at 9 a.m., a public hearing and action to approve a liquor license for Brookings Country Club, Inc. Is
Move.
Second.
motion made and second. At this time, I'll open the public hearing for comments. Is there anyone who would like to address the comments from the country club? Come on up and introduce yourself. And
Commissioner Bartley, am I able to speak or do I need to wait?
what's that?
Am I able to just say a comment or do I need to wait?
You can make a comment, but we'll have this one first.
You bet.
Then I'll let you make one.
All right, well, I'm Mary Jo Eisenbeis. I'm the food and beverage manager at the country club. So I thought I should be here for this moment.
Okay, so you're standing by for questions.
What's that?
You're standing by for questions?
If any need be, or Jenna can have her comment, whichever.
Okay, fine.
Could she move the mic closer so we can
Oh,
hear her?
sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can pull it right up to, with the mask, it loses about 10 dB of sound pressure level. Jenna, your comments.
Yes, thank you. Just wanted to let the board know, and the public that is listening that Brookings County does have an ordinance. It's 2015-01, and in that ordinance, it states that any businesses who fail a liquor sting needs to come before the board just for any questions or comments. And I did reach out to the sheriff's department, and this was one of the businesses who did fail. So Mary is here in front of you if you had any questions or comments for her.
Okay. Any other comments?
None by myself. We're going to take the necessary precautions to make sure this does not happen again, and we'll take this as a lesson to learn, and we'll go forward.
Okay. Any questions from the commissioners? Commissioner Pierce?
I believe there's a program that the state requires for training on this purposes. Have you participated in that and the staff member that was involved in this?
The staff member completed the necessary steps following. In 2021, we will be requiring that all service staff above the age of 21 complete the Alcohol Serve Safe course.
Great.
And that's how we plan to move forward with that for any new hire.
Any other questions? Done. Thank you, Mary Jo.
All right, thank you.
Is there any other member of the public who would like to address the commission? If not, I'll close the public hearing. Comments from the commission? Any comments?
Being proactive and getting that set up for 2021 for everybody to complete the class.
Okay. Any other comments from the commission? Hearing none, we'll call the roll.
Krogman?
Aye.
Jensen?
Aye.
Pierce?
Aye.
Boersma?
Aye.
Bartley?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We do have a 9:05 scheduled.
And that's not actually a scheduled thing, that's,
All right.
but because we have someone, if that person is on the phone, I just wanted to give them a specific time because they were going to be calling in. So if they are there, we can start that at any time.
Yes, I am.
You are, all right. We'll start then. We have an action to approve a liquor license for Smokin's Pub and Grub LLC. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second for discussion.
Second for discussion. All right. Any comments from whoever's on the phone? I don't know who you are, so please identify yourself. Or I'll let Jenna go first here.
Sure.
Thank you. So this liquor application, I just wanted to bring before the board. I know that there was some confusion on whether or not this business was open or not. So I just thought it would be appropriate to bring the business in front of you guys just so that Wendy would be able to explain, just kind of what's going on. I know that there has been, a couple big things that have happened, and so I just thought it would be appropriate to bring her in before you make your decision.
Thank you. And back to whoever's on the telephone. Please identify yourself, please, and then your comments.
Sure. My name's Wendy Hansen, and I have been the owner of Smokin's Pub and Grub since it became Smokin's Pub and Grub since 2009. Just giving a little back history. I owned it before that too, as well as Twister's. So I've been out at Lake Ponce since 2005 as the owner of that property. 2019, we had every intentions of getting open, and I purchased invoices and product and things. We also had a natural disaster flood happen in 2019, which not only devastated my home where I live, but another business that we purchased at Lake Ponce. And so April 19th is the date that it started flooding, and therefore, as far as Smokin's getting open, I had no opportunity. I had a business to try to go forward and with all the flooding, and then my home, which I'm no longer in, and still to this day is flooded. That's what happened in 2019. So, and then 2020 came, and the worldwide pandemic came. So, Smokin's was not open in 2020. I do plan on having it open in 2021. We were open in 2018. I think that was the question too. So, I'm just asking you guys to please bear with me to have a national disaster and then to have the pandemic. That's what's hindered 19 and 20 for us.
Okay.
I was in contact continually with Jenna on this as well. So I guess if anybody has any questions, please feel free.
Mr. Chair, too, just wanted to let you guys know that I'm not aware, or I haven't been approached at all of anybody interested, in this license yet or anything. So just wanted to throw that out there for you guys as well.
Okay. Questions from the commission? My question, Commissioner Krogman.
Wendy, this is Ryan Krogman. Smokin's was up on top of the hill there in Brookings County. And then, did you move the business then over to the former Pier 81 area there and get a different liquor license for that?
We have a separate liquor license. That's Smokin's on the Lake, and then we have Smokin's Pub and Grub.
Okay.
Yes, Smokin's Pub and Grub did not flood, but I have the huge business there, and not only did we flood in April, then we turned around and flooded in July, and my home was completely engulfed in October of 2019. Had a little bit on my plate to deal with.
So you were planning on running both. You are planning in 2021. Yes. You're running both sites.
Yes.
Okay.
And was planning on it in 19 and was planning on it in 20. Unfortunately, life happened and craziness happened. So I had a little on my plate.
Okay.
Any other questions? Any other comments or questions? If not, all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay? Motion carries.
Thank you, Board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Move on to some regular business here. Unless we have something else in here.
Did Misty have a department head report? We missed me.
Did I miss Misty?
You missed Misty.
You weren't
Say
on
that.
my list, Misty, so. Now you are.
Well, thank you. At least I got on the list last, but
Yeah.
not least, right?
Well, better late than never.
Good morning, all. So I just want totals. I sent out bills for the townships all in one bill this year, and it threw them all for a loop. Because usually I send the spring run out in July-ish by the time I get the spring run bills done. And then I send the fall run out in October. I didn't get that done. I was in the truck helping because I only had 2 men in the trucks, and I needed to be out in the truck. So I kind of pushed the billing off until October. October 20th, I sent out all the township spraying bills. Thank you to Larry. I've understood there's been a lot of questions, and he's tackled them for me. But out of the 23 township, we have 15 total that hired the county to spray. And the total dollar amount that we will be receiving back for spraying for them is $37,990.10. We have 4 townships left to receive payment, which is awesome. Usually there's a lot more that are late. But yeah, that's for the townships. And then DOT, our spring run, I'm not sure if I reported this to you or not, but I will now. The spring run for DOT was $10,601.08. That we've already received that check for the spring run. I just gave them the fall run after being home with COVID, and not me, but other people, and being on quarantine. So I handed that in to DOT yesterday, and the fall run was quite a bit less because we had 2 guys and myself. ATV drivers went back to school or quit. $4,156.05 was for the DOT spraying. It's a lot less than the spring, but we had more guys in the spring. And then the gopher truck contract, that was only $662.50. That gopher contract is separate from the spraying contract because it gives you more money for the gophers, or excuse me, for spraying. Because the gophers would eat into your spraying, and they're only allowing $24,020 total for DOT spraying. That's what I bidded this year. So we're under, which is perfect. Otherwise, budget, I just want to let you know, I have been watching the budget line, and the supplies and materials line is in the negative. A lot of that is because we had, Grassland L tote is $9,500, a 250-gallon tote. We had 8 totes for the whole spring and fall, 8 totes of Grassland. So that's $76,000 worth of Grassland L. And then 8 totes of 2,4-D, and that's $2,150, excuse me, a 250-gallon tote, and that was a total of $17,200. So, and the chemical comes out of our supplies and material line. So that there is the reason, I believe, that we're negative in the supplies and material. Any questions on that?
Did you adjust the budget for next year?
I didn't. I didn't adjust it for next year.
So we're probably going to be over again next year.
Yes.
Okay.
Unless I anticipated not using as much Grassland L next year. I anticipated 6 totes instead of 8. That's an option. We can always just watch, and I can adjust at my level so we don't go over next year.
But you might have more townships sign up too, more or less, either way, so. This year, being the dry season, there was less areas that were water, so Misty was able to spray more areas this year too, so.
Definitely.
What does the application density look like next year with the residual? Similar?
We should be able to put less down because there was a residual, and that was the reason why we chose to go with Grassland L. And there's county roads was all Grassland L. DOT was split. Toward on 2,4-D. That's what Grassland L is. Townships, there was only a few, maybe 4 that used Grassland L, but that was better than the first year when there was only 1. And they're very appreciative. And their thought, too, is the same as mine. If we apply this Grassland L, next year we won't have to apply as much, or could we possibly go back to 2,4-D? Do you know what it is? Because this is the 3rd year that we've been using Grassland L, so. I'm hoping to get ahead, and I'm hoping it'll be less chemical next year. Now it'll depend on how dry, how wet, how windy, all that, take that into consideration. I have one more thing. I want to let you know the sheriff's department, the highway department have a heated shed again this year, so we're working with them. And thank you to Brian for allowing Mike and Jay to put my equipment away while I was home on quarantine. So, otherwise, I don't have anything else. You have any more questions for myself?
Any questions? Thank you, Misty.
Thanks.
All right, we've got about 15 minutes before our next presentation. Regular business, item A is an action to approve of South Dakota Department of Transportation Bridge Replacement Funding Agreement for structure number 06-210-098, project number BRO 8006, parentheses 55, PCN 084G. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any comments? Brian, any comments?
Yeah, this is that federal grant we attained this past summer, and this structure is 3 miles west and 2 miles south of White.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll call the roll.
Jensen?
Aye.
Pierce?
Aye.
Boersma?
Aye.
Krogman?
Aye.
Bartley?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item B is an action to approve agreement number 20-71, an application for occupancy of right-of-way of county highways made by Basin Construction / Thomas Halens in Oslo Township. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any comments? Brian?
This is Thomas Halens is going to be doing some drainage cleaning on his own farm, and then the contractor has agreed to just kind of tie in to our portion to properly drain his area.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Any comments? Not. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Item C is an action to approve a cash transfer from the General Fund 101-4-911-4290 to Emergency Management Fund 226-3-371-0000 in the amount of $60,000. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any report or comments?
This is the kind of the second step we did at our last meeting. We had the supplemental budget hearing for this dollar amount, if you recall that. So this actually now authorizes the cash to be transferred from the general fund to emergency management fund. If you think about how we work, we can give budget authority, but then we also have to have the cash available to spend those dollars. So this is kind of that second action needed to complete that supplemental budget that was approved at the last meeting.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the commission? Questions or comments? If not, we'll call the roll.
Pierce?
Aye.
Boersma?
Aye.
Krogman?
Aye.
Jensen?
Aye.
Bartley?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item D is an action to approve a request to fill vacancy for an appraiser in the Equalization Department. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Report?
This is due to an upcoming retirement of one of the appraisers in that office. Just kind of getting ahead of it.
Any other questions or comments? Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Item E is an action to approve a request to fill vacancy for a patrol sergeant in the sheriff's office. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. A report. Sheriff Marty, come on up. Good morning.
Morning.
Just with some sad news, I'm going to have probably 2 retirements in the new year. But Sergeant Pike has given me his resignation and his retirement. That's effective in April. It'll be effective in April. So what I'd like to do is just move forward into the process of promotion. My intention is to promote within the department. And there's always going to be competition and so forth, and testing and those types of things. I have 2 key roles that I'm going to be losing. Sergeant Pike has indicated and gave me his resignations for April. He has over 24 years in. And then Detective Sergeant Hyder has also indicated that he plans to retire in January, but he has not given me his resignation. What I'd like to do, first of all, I just want to say there's no money involved or overtime or budget, so what I want to do is get ahead of this, do the promotions. I'd like to have permission from the commission to go ahead and do what I need to do to replace those 2 positions, and then also to go ahead and then I'm going to have to hire 2 deputy sheriffs. And so I would like permission to go ahead once the sergeant positions are filled, and then go ahead and advertise and get 2 deputies. Now, what I'm worried about on the deputy side is that that's a little lengthier process, is because there's a written test. I need to work with HR because HR is new. Kristen, this is all going to be new for her with the testing and getting the tests and so forth. They also require psychological, which is done in Watertown. I don't know if they're doing face-to-face or if we're doing Zoom or whatever. So it's going to be a lengthy process. And when I prepared budget, I visited with Vicki. Vicki's got it in my budget for next year, anticipating the 2 retirements, so that they put a little bit in there to cover vacations and sick leave and that type of stuff. So what I'm looking for is to go ahead, so I don't have to come back every 2 weeks and say, I want to fill this, I want to fill that, and fill that. If I can just go ahead, get those, my 2 key, I have to file a union contract on the promotions and follow their, on promotions. Once they're promoted, then advertise for deputy sheriffs to replace those. With a small department, I just can't be out 4 people technically. It's just, I got too much going on. So that's what I'm looking to do. Hopefully I haven't confused everybody. I'm sorry if I have. But
So Marty, are you asking in this motion, because the motion's different than what you just said, are you asking in this motion to replace both Pike and Hayter's position and to authorize you to hire 2 new patrolmen
right.
to do
right.
all 4?
Yep.
Do we need an amendment for that?
Well,
or-
what I would like first is, I think we need to get in writing a resignation from Hyder before we start
and that's-
advertising his position.
I would do that. yes.
Okay.
So
And
the,
then,
the patrol sergeant is what I want to move on right now, and then when Hyder gives me his resignation, then move on to that. And then after that point, after those 2 are promoted, after I have 2 sergeant promotions, and then advertise for 2 deputy sheriffs.
and I think what we would do is bring that paper, I mean, it's pretty easy to bring a request to fill vacancy, but if you kind of know where Marty is going with this, I mean, as soon as we get Hyder's formal resignation, we could bring a 2nd patrol sergeant and 2 deputy sheriff positions, requests to fill vacancy to the board at that time, and just do them, the remaining 3 all at once.
And part of that reasoning is that once I promote, I want them to work with these sergeants a little bit, because there's a lot to it. My patrol sergeant writes highway safety grants and all the training, he keeps track of all the training hours and so forth. And then the detective sergeant, who is indicating that he is looking at January 15th, but again, I won't know until he gives me his resignation. You know, whoever moves into that position has got to work with any open cases that we got to see where he's at with investigations. And so it's kind of a,
What my concern is that we meet December 22nd, so that's 3 weeks from now, and then we don't meet until the new year. And has Hayter told you when a date that he's looking at?
he's indicated a preliminary January 15th,
So
but I haven't got.
if we wait that 3 weeks, we've used up most of that training period to wait. And would it not work to amend the motion so that we approve the patrol sergeant, approve filling Hayter's position, and I forget what it's called, I'm sorry, subject to his submitting his resignation, and authorize the sheriff to start, because by the time he does advertising and we're over the holiday, if we wait until December 22nd to do all this, he won't have people until in January.
I guess my question to you, Marty, is you're going to promote 2 people that are right now deputies into hopefully these 2 patrol positions, or these two positions. The onboarding of those 2 new individuals will take approximately how long? You'd already talked about the steps have to go through? Is that a 30-day, 60-day, 90-day process to get somebody on those lower positions hired, trained, certified in their workforce?
Yeah, yeah, especially on the deputies' positions, if they're not certified, yeah. Then they have 16 weeks training and 13 weeks at the academy.
So my concern at this point in time is you're going to be short 2 people on the deputy staff as they move up and take over those positions. You're going to be short anyway.
Yes,
Am I correct? Okay.
correct.
And you have a plan to handle that shortage until they become certified, or is it basically an issue of cost? If we onboard them as quickly as possible to start that training process even before the other 2.
It will help with cost. You know, we can handle, that's why I wanted to go ahead and get the promotions in once I get the second. And so that when we get into the deputy side, that they can give, you know, their place ample time to you know, if I get somebody from another department or something, to resign and give them notice and so forth. We can handle the shortage for a while, because I've had deputies out 2 at a time with COVID. And then there's some overtime issues, though, of course, when I'm shorthanded. They have to go to 12-hour shifts and so forth, so.
But Sergeant Pike's not leaving till April.
His is not until April, right.
Till April.
Yep. His
So-
last day is April 23rd on the patrol sergeant. But again, Hyder has indicated
Right.
in January, but he hasn't given me a formal resignation.
So the promotion, when would we expect to promote within? So then does that, whoever gets promoted up, so we're gonna have 2 sergeants for about 4 months. That's
Right.
probably what we're talking about, 2 patrol
Well, they wouldn't
sergeants?
get promoted, they would not move into that position until those other ones are vacated.
Okay,
So what I want to do is that I can't just take 2 patrolmen or 2, if my intention is to hire within, to promote within, but they're not going to be able to work with that sergeant every day. So it's going to be whenever that shift is together, then they'll spend time together. So maybe one day they might spend 2 hours together, maybe another day they spend the whole 8 hours together, but then there's going to be times they can't spend any time because they got to maintain their shifts also. So that it's going to be hit and miss how much training I'm going to get or how much time. I'm more worried about the investigation side than I am the patrol side, just because of open cases and
and that timeline's shorter. I mean, that January 15th is a short timeline for us, basically. It's 30, 40 days, you
Yes.
know, and that's a harder one to fill. If you're gonna go within and then hire another patrol person, that's the one that's gonna take a while. Where, you know, Sergeant Pike is graciously given us
Yes.
quite a bit of notice, which is, you know, really nice of him to do that. Allows us to prepare for that, allows that person to go in. But that person that you hire within to his position, he will still be a patrol person until April.
Right,
Correct,
right.
okay.
Yep, yep.
So-
So that's why there's no money, you know, he's not going to be promoted in new salary or anything
Right.
like that.
Right.
They're just going to be able to work together when their shifts will
So-
allow that.
So my thought, thinking about this too, is that we have kind of an emergency situation for one new patrol officer for the detective, sergeant, is he sergeant or?
Yes.
okay, Sergeant Hayter?
Yes.
Yeah, and so, maybe my thought was to, again, we don't have the resignation, and maybe things will change. I'm wondering if we should approve this the way this one is, work on trying to hire one for this position. We'll have somebody, hopefully by January for that, which will help cover for Sergeant Hayter, and then when he actually does give us the resignation, start another process to try to have one in before April, or that kind of thing. But, you know, I don't know, if we have this on the agenda on the 22nd for request to fill for Hayter, and should we also have request to fill at that time? And we can have both of them started?
So we could do the 2 deputy sheriffs at that time then too.
Right.
I mean, if you give kind of go ahead and approve this now, and, you know, I'm not opposed to Leanne's suggestion on the amendment saying, you know, we can authorize Marty to also move forward when we get Hyder's resignation, and then start on the deputy sheriff positions as well. to try to, because that is a long process. That's a lengthy process in its own right, just to get people hired, even if they are certified. It's a lengthy process because it's an interview process, it's a testing process. So it takes time. And then we could still bring the paperwork before you at a later time, but I think, you could give consensus. You've done that in the past. Say, yeah, go ahead, move forward, bring the formal paperwork at the next available meeting. But I think, Kristen and I can definitely work with Marty. The difference, the problem is what Sergeant Hyder does and what Sergeant Pike does are two different things. It's not the same, it's not the same job. So it'd be, hiring right now within for Pike's position that doesn't end until April is great, but the more pressing need is really for someone to train with Sergeant Hyder right now, because he's indicated that he plans to leave sooner than that. So, and that's not what this request is for, is not Hyder's position, it's actually Pike's position. So
When would you anticipate choosing within for these two positions? I mean, is that something that's going to be done here in a week, 2 weeks?
Well, I have to go by union contract, so I have to advertise in-house for 7 days. And then after that, there'll be a process of interviews. I still haven't figured out a point system yet, and my interview panel and things like that yet too. So, we're looking at a month or better to promote too.
Marty, would you, if we approve both of those today, would you be doing, advertising them at the same time so everybody knew that they were both coming open and they could say, yeah, I'm interested in this, or I'm interested in either one, and then you could do interviews together? Or would that be more efficient in how you
Probably
work through that process?
Yeah.
Okay, at this point in time, we've got a 9:30 schedule that's here, so you're going to ask you to step aside while we do our 9:30 presentation. Let's come back to this discussion as soon as we're done. Is that okay with you, Sheriff? Thank you. We like to stay on time for the public here. Jackie, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me for an update on our 20th Street South Interchange project. And we'll just go ahead with our some slides I put together for you today. This project is a grant-funded project, and it's located on 20th Street South between 22nd Avenue and 34th Avenue. And the city and county received a build grant for the project, and so the city and county and donors are donating 20% of the cost of the project, and the total cost of the grant funding is about $23.3 million. And our timeline for the project, this is a really condensed timeline due to the grant requirements that were stipulated, and we asked during the COVID season if there were any exceptions and extensions to these timelines, and there are not. So right now we are staying on schedule. We had the release of the draft EA on our public online meeting. Hopefully all of you had a chance to watch the pre-recorded PowerPoint presentation, which I thought was really informative. It was kind of lengthy, but it sort of described the project from where we started with design and where we are currently. And the draft EA is also listed on the website. And we received comments from the public, and we received 20 comments on the draft EA, and so we closed the comment period. And so now we are working on finalizing the EA, and we've met with landowners here in November, and then tonight, or this morning, I'm providing you the 60% plans and cost estimate on the project. And in the environmental assessment, the alternate 5 shown here is the one that's recommended. And so the EA puts together all the different environmental impacts of each of the alternatives. There were 5 alternatives that were studied, and this is the preferred or the recommended alternative in the environmental assessment. So it shows a cloverleaf on the southwest corner of quadrant of the project for the interchange, and then a traditional off-ramp on the east side. Some of the reasons for the off-ramp on the east side were that there's protected wetlands in the northeastern quadrant that could not be disturbed. And then also the golf course could not be disturbed. There's 4F and 6F funding, federal funding related to when the golf course was initiated. And some of those requirements can be overcome, but they're very lengthy. And so with the condensed timeline with the project, it was recommended to not disturb any of the golf course property. And then this is the recommended layout. One item that we've talked about during the design is the streetlight layout and what that might look like. So here's a just kind of a condensed drawing for you. The streetlights will be a traditional Cobra style. They'll be 30-foot tall lights, 8-foot arm. They will be LED, so they're very similar to what we have on 6th Street. We're not using any enhanced, upgraded lights like we had on the east end of 6th Street with the historical lighting. But we are proposing for the city to provide power to the street lights and perform the maintenance and then put those on our street lighting system. Steve Breitzman had done some research, and there's a South Dakota law that does allow a service to utilities to your own property or facilities, even outside city limits. And I wanted to bring that to the meeting here too, and just let you know that's what we're proposing. And I wondered if there was any comments about that. So then the city would pay for the power and the maintenance. We would just add it to our streetlight system that we have within the city limits. Even though the eastern leg of 20th, those lights would technically be outside city limits, but we would still provide the power. Okay. And then next I have the cost update for you. Not a lot of changes that we've had. Really, the step we are at right now is coming up with the construction costs. The DOT, Geotechnical Office, is recommending asphalt for our project. I was here a few months ago, and we talked about asphalt versus concrete. And after those discussions, the Geotechnical Office recommended asphalt, even though the governing bodies were proposing concrete. So that was a change. And they really were concerned about settlement of the subgrade. So if we had a concrete pavement, it's a rigid pavement, and they were concerned about cracking. So we're proceeding with asphalt for the project. And so the 60% cost estimate, the changes I have in red are the text in red are the changes from the last meeting when I was here. The right-of-way costs have not been determined yet. We'll be doing appraisals in approximately January, and then we'll have a better idea what right-of-way might cost. Utility relocation is still ongoing, so the first line there is still the same as the 30% estimate. Wetland mitigation, they're finalizing that right now as far as the acres that need to be mitigated, and then coming up with a cost, so we don't have a firm number on wetland mitigation. And the DOT Construction Administration, no change there that we're aware of. And so the construction costs for asphalt are just a couple $100,000 higher than what was estimated for the 30% estimate. So we're at $18.35 million for that, for the construction estimate. And then a total earmark here of $22.9 million, which is still under the $23.3 million total grant amount. Any questions on the budget? Okay, and our next steps we're compiling the comments and the responses on the EA. We'll finalize that EA document and we submit it for approval. And what we're wanting to have at the end of the process is a finding of no significant impact, and that's called a FONSI. So if you hear people say, we're waiting for the FONSI or something on that order, that is related to the EA. And then that means all of the environmental clearances have been approved. There's the no significant impact, and it's signed off by DOT and Federal Highway. And then we're also working with the landowners on their questions They have had some access questions related to driveway approaches and things like that on 20th Street South, so we're working through those. And then we'll continue our design, and we'll have a 90% cost estimate and plans in approximately February, so a very fast timeline. We really give the design team a lot of credit for super amount of work getting to this stage. And so we are meeting the grant schedule, and so that's great. And there's our project website on 20thstreetinterchange.com. And in fact, today we have a meeting on our 60% plan review, so we'll be going through questions and the actual design that we have at the current time. Are there any other questions?
Any questions or comments?
I have a comment.
Okay.
I just want to say, you know, I was part of the group that worked on this project since I've been on the county commission. And the layout that the engineers put together is not a layout that was ever even considered. I couldn't even imagine that. And it's so creative, and it takes care of the problems that we had with our geography. It's just amazing. And thank you for the work you've been doing on that.
Yeah, no, sometimes you get a team together and it's not one person's idea, it's more of a collaboration of discussions, and then the group thought of this idea, and it's very similar to the interchange there in Sioux Falls in the upper corner of that picture. So it has been built before. It's not common, but it does fit here with our topography, and with the timeline, we're able to avoid all those environmental issues that would have taken time to mitigate. So thank you for that. Yeah, and it's a long, I don't know what year you started working on the process, but it was probably 8 years or so by the time we get from beginning to end. And so, but it's really great to see progress, and I'm really excited about getting it constructed.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Thank you for all your work on this.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
I'll
Thanks,
be back
Jackie.
in a couple months with your next update.
All righty.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, Marty, would you like to come back up and we'll continue our discussion on filling these positions? I'll kind of start here. It appears to me that we have two positions. One that's been resigned, a resignation or a date set, and one that we only anticipate. When we read this request for a patrol sergeant, are both Pike and Hayter patrol sergeants?
No, one's Pike is a patrol sergeant, the other position is a detective sergeant.
Detective sergeant. All right. So we'd have to make an amendment to this to be detective/patrol sergeant to allow us to move into. What I'm looking at right now is if we can generically put this together so that you can use this for Hayter's position once you get the resignation. In addition to that, a patrol to replace it immediately. That way you can use this and hire one not patrol, detective patrol or patrol sergeant or a deputy. In other words, one deputy with this action. That allows you, if you use this for Pike, you can go ahead and hire the deputy and get through that training process when Pike is done and somebody else has moved up. Now that might double your payroll, I don't know that, but you'll have to figure it out. But if we can make this somehow for at least one of those two positions, we don't identify exactly which one it is, and an additional deputy, then when you get if you have to use it for Pike, then you've got the deputy. We can do another one to hire another deputy and specifically for Pike's position. I don't know how we would word that, but that's kind of the way I want to go, is at least we get one deputy with this somehow or another, so you can start that process. It's a long one.
Right.
If it happens to be a Hayter, I want to be able to use this for that. Same way, though, with a deputy hired. Does that make
One thing
sense
about
to
it,
anybody?
when I test for deputy sheriff, I can have an eligibility list. In other words, once the movement is for Pike, go ahead and advertise for deputy sheriff, take the test, have an eligibility list, and so forth.
Can I make a?
You may. I'm off in the weeds here.
Yeah, I think what would be the most helpful, I think, to Marty, and honestly to probably the HR office too, is take Commissioner Pierce's suggestion on the amendment to say we're authorizing a patrol sergeant, a detective sergeant, and 2 deputy sheriffs. Because I would just as soon advertise all of them at the same time, especially with those deputy sheriffs, because if we have to do testing, I mean, we bring folks in and then we can let them know, and we have to buy the supplies for the testing and score those, and we could then hire, we could basically hire 2, maybe not, it wouldn't be at the same time, but we could at least do the testing at the same time and say, this one is going to start on this date. You know, if interested, this one will start on this date. But at least it gives us the authorization to move forward with basically all 4 positions.
Right.
Hiring the 2 internal for the sergeant positions, and then 2 deputy sheriffs to fill those promoted positions.
And I think that I'm sorry, Ryan. I think the important thing when we look at it is the deputies that we already have, so that are looking at, we don't have promotions come that often.
Right.
And so that they can see both positions, and some people may be interested in this one, and other ones have the skills and interest in the other one. And to be able to let people know that both of those are available, that they can look at them, determine whether they're interested in one or both, and apply if they are. And to run those 2 tandem to each other, I think would be really helpful for us getting the best people in those 2 jobs long-term.
I would just say contingent upon Hyder's
Right.
resignation being
Exactly.
formally
And that's-
submitted.
That's my problem. We don't have 2 positions open. We
No,
have
we
one,
have one.
and that's it. We don't have Hayter's resignation. I don't want to advertise for a resignation that's not even happened.
He might change
Is
his
the
mind.
union going to come back at us and said, you were advertising a position that you had no notice of even being open?
We can fix that in the motion. We'll just make it subject to him submitting his resignation. If he doesn't, we don't do anything.
Okay, I guess my thought was that we act on this and we add that we would do an additional patrol officer to this one, so we can get this one done. Are you pretty confident you're going to be hiring within? Because that's not a for sure thing either. Because if you hire outside from another department, wherever, and they come in and and you hire that person, now we've got another patrol officer that we didn't budget for, or didn't have a need for. Now, so I guess the normal way this would go was, my thought is, we would fill this there, you would do the hiring, and if the hiring is within, then we would turn around on the 22nd and do a patrol officer to cover that person's position. And that's how we would go forward. Now, I'm willing to, accept that you're going to probably hire within, and that we should go for that patrol officer right away, along with this one, so there's 2 of them. And that person would hopefully be on board, and if the detective sergeant, Hayter, gives us his resignation before the 22nd, then we act on that one on the 22nd and get an additional patrol person on top of that, so we have the 2 going before the end of the year. Maybe the one gets going a little quicker, so it can cover for Hayter's position, because that person we hire is not the one that has to work with Hayter. It's the one internally that has to work with Hayter. So the quicker we make your decision here in the next week, and the quicker we get Hayter's resignation, quicker we can fill that position, and those people can work with them right away, because they're within. They're going to be here. Those other 2 are not, and they're not going to be the ones working with them. They're going to be filling the patrol positions. So my suggestion, and whether right or wrong, would be we add a patrol officer to this one and get both of those going, and then if Hayter gives us that thing, hopefully he gives it to us before the 22nd, maybe we can ask him. I just don't want him to change his mind, and he has that right, and I don't want to start advertising his position that we have not have notice for. So that's just my concern.
And I agree with you 100%. My only thing was I wanted to eliminate having to come back, and once I get the resignation, then move I want permission just to move forward with that. So that's basically what I'm looking at today, is that Sergeant Pike is, I got his, and if he wanted to take it back, I'd give it back to him, because I'm losing a lot of experience with these two guys, 48 years of experience, so that's hard to replace off, but I'm not gonna lose him for, Dennis Falcon was, I'm sure you guys all know Dennis, past commissioner, retired police chief. He had a part-time job with Department of Highway Safety. John's gonna take over that position. So he's not gonna be gone forever. So whoever I put in that position I still have him to work with that new sergeant a little bit on the grant, because he wrote my grant for the highway safety thing. So that's a done deal right now. So I agree with you, Ryan, and I apologize if I've confused the commission on what I wanted to do. I knew that I only could do that because I got the resignation. I am just looking to avoid having to come back and ask permission to go ahead and replace Hyder. I'd just like to be able to move forward once I get that resignation and then move forward.
No, and I understand.
I think that's just add a deputy
Add a
sheriff
deputy
to
to
this motion.
So is that,
And then, if we get Hyder's formal resignation between now and the 22nd, then we can add that request and a second patrol or a deputy sheriff onto that.
Yeah.
Once we get that
Right, 'cause
resignation in
You're
hand.
gonna advertise for deputy, and you're
Either
gonna
way.
get all your applications, you're gonna do your testing. And in the process, in the meantime, Hader may come forward with his resignation, and then you can just pick two.
Sure.
So I'll make an amendment to the motion then, since I've made the motion, that we approve a request to fill vacancy for a patrol sergeant in the sheriff's office and a patrol officer.
I'd second that.
okay, a motion been made and seconded. Any comments on the amendment? Any comments on the amendment? All right, we will actually probably do a voice vote on the amendment first. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The amendment carries. Now, the original motion is the action to request to fill vacancy for patrol sergeant in the sheriff's office and an additional patrol officer. Is that what you call them, or deputy patrol? Deputy patrol officer. Get the correct title here. Any other comments or questions on the amended main motion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Are we all right now?
Okay, thank you, commissioners.
I just want
I
to
didn't
say,
mean to complicate this.
I just
Thank
want
you.
to say one thing. I remember when both of those started, when they did their first testimony in court. How can they be retiring?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're down to item 9, Commission Department Director's Report. Stacy?
I don't have too. The jail expansion bond was included with my report. That's going to occur next week. Or is there some things coming sooner now, I think? Okay. Paperwork is here
Okay.
for that, so. Yep, the closing that will be done on next Tuesday, December 8th. You did receive an invitation, and a copy of that also was attached with my report to the East Brookings Business and Industry Association's annual meeting. That's coming up next Monday, the 7th of December, and that's at the Swift Health Center. And,
I will not be there. I don't know if you need to know if we need to be there or not.
nope,
Okay.
nope, you just received that invitation for the commission to attend, so. And then, another update, AVI Systems started the upgrades at the courthouse to courtroom. They're starting on courtroom B with those audio upgrades that we had approved earlier. Worked yesterday, today on courtroom B, and hope to get to courtroom A, the large courtroom, Wednesday and Thursday, and be done. Just some other things, just some upcoming things to note for closures. The offices close at noon on Christmas Eve on the 24th, and then closed Christmas Day, and then also New Year's Day. That's all I have, unless you have some questions for me.
Any questions? Okay. We will move on to the state attorney's office report. Dan?
Yeah, nothing to report.
I like short reports. There we go. Item 11, is there any correspondence received? We'll start with Commissioner Pierce.
You'll like my report. On November 18th, I attended the legislative luncheon by Zoom. That was interesting. Technology will do everything, apparently. On November 23rd, I attended the drainage meeting. And as Bob said, and he's gone, we did have individual landowners that testified as relates to drainage issues. And mainly we were looking, the people that came were people that were to the southeast of Brookings, along in that area. And there's a drainage ditch that flows that we're going to do a little more research on, and then we'll be getting back to the commission on that. And there were 2 county culverts, and I don't know if Bob's reached out yet to you, Brian, on that flow through that area, and we wanted to make sure our county culverts weren't a problem there. And there were 2 pieces of land in that area that are owned by the city of Brookings, and we want to invite the city to come and talk to us about some drainage issues. We're going to do that at our next meeting. That would be my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Boersma.
We had the detention center precast shop drawing meeting and meeting on site. And then on the Wednesday, the 18th, we had an ICAP board meeting, virtual legislative preview. And then wanted to remind commissioners and the public that today's the day of giving. And so you're going to get hit up by about 60 to 150 different nonprofits in the Brookings County area at various points during the day, probably if you are on social media at all. So find a place to be generous, and I'd encourage everyone to do so. That's it.
Thank you. Commissioner Krogman.
Yes. Yesterday, a little week for me, I met with Dwayne from Growth Partnership. They are actually having a meeting as we speak here right now, so I wasn't able to go to that meeting, but he just gave me an update of what's going on. I had the BCOAC meeting at noon yesterday, and again had a good meeting and continue to plan for next year on everything. And then had our quarterly strategic planning meeting over here in the commission room, or excuse me, the conference room over here. And that's where we had SDSU, utilities, Brookings Health, city, county. We had Beta there. We had United Way, and we just all kind of gave updates of things that have been going on and things we're looking for in the future, just to try to communicate with all of that and everything. So we did that yesterday it was fairly short, about an hour was all it was, but and that's what I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Jensen.
Same meetings as Ryan, the BCOAC advisory board. That's looking good. Our financials out there are looking better than last year, even due to the COVID. So, as they say, the traffic for customers is slow, but it's steady, and it's going pretty good out there. Strategic planning, also, there was good information shared by everybody that attended yesterday. And that's all I have.
Thank you. For my report, again, the detention center review of the cells was a big one, because we had some things in there that we wanted that they didn't have, so we were able to update those things and make sure that everything that we wanted ended up in final drawings. So we'll see how that goes. We also looked at some color examples on the outside of the building, and we're supposed to receive some samples. We requested some changes and the hue of the color, and I forget, Commissioner Boersma, was it a little bit more tan or a little less tan? I can't remember. More tan, okay. So we haven't seen those concrete samples yet. I assume they're going to be here this week. At least they were supposed to be. On the 19th, we had a commission chairman's call-in with the state association, and that went well. For the first time that they had that call-in, everybody got a chance to ask them questions if they wanted to and clarify some issues. I think they'll probably continue to do that maybe once a month for a while since we can't meet in person. We'll see how that goes. And also an LEPC meeting with Bob, and he's gone, but we did that as a Zoom meeting also. And tonight I have a planning commission meeting, so that'll be my complete report. Is there any discussion items from anybody? Hearing none, I will be signing those papers for the bond here after the meeting. We have no executive session necessary, so we won't do that. Meeting done by 10 o'clock. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Opposed, nay.